So here in the Philippines, we really do love our 3-row full-size SUVs. Kaya nga mabenta ang Toyota Land Cruiser, yung Nissan Patrol, and the question now is though, is there a room here in the Philippines for a 3-row electric SUV? That is exactly what we're gonna be finding out in the review of the Kia EV9. More on that later. For now, if you like what you're seeing, or even these kinds of reviews, why not hit subscribe and hit the bell? What a car this thing. So the Kia EV9 is pretty much a flagship of Kia's global vehicle lineup. And yeah, as you're gonna see naman, in terms of the way the car looks, this is the opposites united design language. So that design basically is characterized by a blend of very edgy lines. You also have here the star map LED lighting, which gives the Kia EV9 a very distinct look. You have here nice cuts and creases, which does help in making the car side profile look less blocky and much sleeker. I also like here the car's 21-inch wheels. So to lang, this is actually one of my favorite design highlights of this car because, let's be honest, it really does look distinct yung kanang 21-inch wheels. And we're gonna be talking about this later, yung kanang digital side view mirrors. And then as we move towards here sa kanang rear portion, you have this interesting LED taillight design, which also carries a star map pattern. And then being the GT Line variant nga pala, this car gets a sportier front and rear bumper to basically match the car's added performance. So yun nga, this car gets a dual motor all-wheel drive layout. So just imagine the power this thing makes, especially when we take this car out on the highway. Now, with that in mind, there is a good time I think for us to hop inside the Kia EV9 to see what else this car has to offer. So ano nga ba ang meron sa Kia EV9 for this SUV to stand out? Well, as you're gonna be seeing naman in the car's interior, you have this predominantly horizontal dash design. So it looks really nice, very modern, and in typical Kia fashion, especially at this price point, the interior's well made. So talagang the materials are very premium. Here in the center console, so you're gonna be seeing, meron ka rin ditong parang sustainably sourced textile, which looks really nice and really helps in uplifting the vibe of this EV9's interior. So overall, it looks pretty much like a lounging interior niya, especially with all the shapes and how this interior has been carved out. So, being an EV, of course, wala kang drive shaft tunnel, and so there's this large space here in between the car's center console and the car's dashboard. Yun nga lang, as you go through the lower parts of the car's interior, yun nga lang, there's a lot of scratchy, hard plastics, but then again, you have to remember na this is still a Kia, not exactly a Lexus or a BMW. Then again, ang BMW nga pala, speaking of which, or even Audi, the new X3, for example, or even the Q6 e-tron, comes with hard touch plastics on the lower parts of their car's interior. So there's that part as well. It's not like BMW and Audi at this point has a huge advantage in terms of interior feel and quality. But yun nga, here in the EV9, as you're gonna be seeing, you have these two 12.3-inch screens running the latest CCNC or Connected Car Navigation Cockpit operating system. And so therefore, this is still pretty much familiar. So if you've seen my reviews of the Kia Sorento, the Hyundai Tucson, the Hyundai Santa Fe, this interface will be pretty much familiar to you. And as you would expect naman talaga, the interface is very simple and easy to operate. You also have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto along with other premium features here, which worth mentioning nga pala, these lovely GT line seats. They're very nice. And one of those premium features, of course, worth mentioning are the massaging front seats and actually even the rear captain's chairs, as you're gonna be seeing later. You also have heated and cooled front seats along with a lovely Meridian surround sound system. Actually, sa totoo lang, it is actually one of the best sound systems at its price point. So, it's really comparable, I think, with the Mark Levinson in Lexus or the Bowers and Wilkins in Volvos. It's a really nice sound system which perfectly matches with the car's 64-color ambient lighting in boosting the interior vibe of the Kia EV9. Now, speaking of tech, there's actually one tech feature na talagang hindi ko ma-appreciate at any point during my drive. And yeah, these are basically the car's digital side view mirrors. So basically, in lieu of those traditional mirrors na reflective, yeah, they opted for these screens, feeling na, well, it's gonna make the car more modern, but in reality, you're not able to adjust your vision kung sabihin natin. So even if you adjust your head position while you're driving, it's not gonna change the view of the screen. So it's really weird. I really am not loving these digital side view mirrors. You also have to remember, of course, that whenever you look at the rear view mirror, your eyes will tend to adjust yung kanyang peripheral or depth perception. And then when you glance towards these mirrors, just imagine na mag-a-adjust yung depth perception basically. So yeah, it's a bit disconcerting minsan, especially when you're in tight spaces and reversing back into a parking space. So yeah, basically for me, this is just tech for tech's sake. And then yeah, digital mirrors aside, let us now hop there in the rear seats of the Kia EV9. Which as you're gonna be seeing here, yun nga, this front seat, by the way, is set for my driving position. So this is similar to the driver's seat. And yeah, look at this legroom. Again, this is a 3-row large SUV, so you pretty much expect this much legroom. Headroom's also really good. Sobrang laki ng iyong headroom. And being a premium SUV, no? So you have power adjustable captain's chairs. And if you're gonna be seeing here sa kanyang center armrest, you actually have controls here for the car's massaging and vibration. Yeah, I don't know why you have vibration functions for the captain's chairs, but yeah, there's that part. And then if you press this button here, joke lang, ito pala. Yeah, so the front seat will move forward. Yeah, so I have my footrest here. Yeah, this is a perfect lounge position here in the back of the Kia EV9. But I still have a car to review, so break natin to. Yeah, that's really a lot of space here at the back of the Kia EV9. Now, speaking of the back seats, if I press this button here, yeah, so the front seat will move automatically. Yeah. Of course, being a full-size 3-row electric SUV, you actually have a lot of space here at the back of the Kia EV9. Now, in terms of legroom, yeah, with this second row seat all the way back, ito lang yung legroom. But of course, since these are captain's chairs, you have this center aisle, so you can put your right knee here, or basically your left knee if you're seated at this seat. And then of course, you can bargain naman for a bit of leg space with the second row occupant. And when they do move their seat a bit forward, there is actually a good amount of space here at the back of the Kia EV9. And worth mentioning are these power adjustable rear seats. Yeah, so this really does help in making the third row more comfortable. Yeah, as for features, what you have here is your own rear lights, and then you have a USB-C fast charge port here. And you also have 2 cup holders on each side of the EV9's third row. Yeah, so it's a pretty good third row actually. One of the most spacious third rows, I think, because of its bespoke EV architecture. And so, with that in mind, let us talk about the car's cargo area, because since power adjustable itong kanyang second and third row seats, you can actually press a button sa kanyang cargo area to fold all of these seats automatically. So, you have no levers and pulleys to deal with when you're aiming to achieve a flat cargo area. And of course, being a ground-up EV, you also have here a front trunk. Now, with all of these things out of the way, let us now talk about the car's powertrain as well as the EV9's driving experience.
So as mentioned, what you get here in the EV9 are dual electric motors, which has a total system output of 384 horsepower and 700 Newton meters of torque. Now that is good enough for a 0 to 100 kph time of just 5.2 seconds. It also has a 99.84 kilowatt-hour battery, while thanks to its 800-volt architecture, the EV9 GT Line supports up to 350 kilowatts of DC fast charging capabilities. And of course, there is also vehicle to load. Now with all of these things out of the way, how does a Kia EV9 GT Line perform on the open road?
Now, as for the driving experience of the Kia EV9, well, as you would pretty much expect in an EV, the car is very quiet, very serene. I couldn't emphasize this enough because here in the EV9, being Kia's flagship, mas lalong quiet siya compared to cars like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and even the Kia EV6. To be fair, yung mga cars na yun are really quiet na at their price point, pero ito lalo, this takes the refinement level up a notch. In fact, you're nearly at the level na of cars like the BMW X5, yung mga ganong German luxury cars. You have to remember din as well na being an EV with a bespoke EV architecture, so you have all of those batteries, like a 99 kilowatt-hour battery filling up the floor of the car. And so just imagine how rigid, how strong the floor area of the car is. And so whenever gonna go over bumps, ang sobrang ganda nung yung pag-deal niya with the road imperfections. Granted, now with the car's 21-inch wheels, there's a bit of jitter lang, pero like, onting ganun lang naman, like you would feel tiny vibrations entering through like the chassis. Pero you have to remember, for the sole fact na this car is so rigid, ang sobrang rock solid ng buong katawan, like you just feel those as vibrations lang basically. And dealing with the bumps, like even the big ones, like in C5 for example, ang sobrang gandang ride absorption niya. Couple that with this car's rock solid chassis, and there's no flexing, there's no shimmying, there's no shaking whatsoever. That is what ultimately, at least for me, dictates how premium a car can feel kung wala ka masyadong chassis flex, because after all, that is how German cars are built din naman. So that's the reason why those cars tend to feel so premium. And here in the Kia EV9, yeah, that's actually taken up a notch. Now, this is a long-range EV, of course, itong Kia EV9, and we're taking this ngayon to a road trip to Subic. And currently, ang battery charge natin is 71%, or that is good for 382 kilometers. Pero coming from our house, with the car fully charged sa home charger, we left off basic at 100%, and that is good enough for a 530-kilometer driving distance. But when you take into account yung kanyang energy consumption, so over the past 5 days or so that I've been driving this car, my average energy consumption is at around 4.4 kilometers per kilowatt hour as stated here, which is pretty good considering how big this car is and also how powerful this car is with 2 electric motors. And then of course, while we're here on the highway, it's a good time na rin talk about the car's advanced driver assistance systems, branded as DriveWise here in these Kia cars. Now, what you get here is of course automatic emergency braking, along with full speed adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, and of course lane centering, along with blind spot warning and rear cross traffic alert. Going back to the driver assistance stuff though, let us dwell for a moment sa kanyang digital side view mirrors. So yeah, I've been living with this car for about 5 days now, and yeah, sa totoo lang, I am still not a fan of these things, because even if you crane up your neck like that, you won't change your POV with these digital side view mirrors. And so yeah, this is really tech for tech's sake lang. Supposedly it improves its range, pero that is pretty much negligible at this point, I'm sure, because otherwise Kia would have stated a different range figure for the Kia EV9 with and without the digital side view mirrors. Now, as you're driving in these everyday normal roads, the Kia EV9 continues to excel because, as mentioned nga kanina, the ride out of this thing is really good, really absorbent, with body control taken into account as well. Because sometimes when the car is too soft, you end up with a wallowy ride, so there's basically secondary motions after hitting a bump. But here in the Kia EV9, Kia has done a really good job with body control, which means na here in these kinds of roads which are a bit twisty, this 3-row SUV is holding onto its own really well. So totoo lang, outside the BMW X7, this is probably as much fun. Yeah, I'm really actually gonna say that, but the Kia EV9 GT Line is quite capable, quite athletic here in these kinds of roads. And that's because outside the BMW X7 and even the Porsche Cayenne, again, though hindi sila magkalaban, but the reason why I'm mentioning those cars is because this car corners really well. Of course, it's a large vehicle, but as far as large vehicles go, ang ganda ng kanyang road holding capabilities because, of course, of those large batteries, keeping the center of gravity very low. Compared to cars like, for example, the Toyota Land Cruiser or even the Nissan Patrol, those cars are pretty much almost equivalent with the Kia EV9 in terms of size. And yet, somehow this car hugs the road much better. Contributing factor then, of course, yung kanyang dual motor all-wheel drive. And yun nga, with the car's lower center of gravity because of all of those batteries, it really helps the Kia EV9 hug this road pretty well, thereby providing this car with a lot of grip. Now, siguro in terms of the emotional connection naman, yes, this car is athletic, magandang kanyang handling, but while the steering is actually responsive, I like how responsive the steering is. Yun nga lang, in terms of feedback, hindi naman siya completely numb, but hindi rin siya nag-o-offer ng a lot of steering feel to give you tactile information on what's happening to the front wheels. But on the upside, yun nga, it's surprisingly precise with a good amount of weight. Hindi siya too light. I actually find it well weighted. Maganda yung weighting niya. The Kia EV9 is pretty much one of the only few 3-row electric SUVs here in the segment. Pero yun nga, as you're seeing ngayon, it is dealing with these twisted roads really well. Granted, this is not a light car though, but what matters the most kasi is how that weight is distributed all over the car structure. And of course, in an electric car, all of that weight is kept very low, thus helping the Kia EV9 steer through corners really well despite its heft. Of course, worth talking about is its dual electric motors because yun nga, this is a dual motor GT Line variant. So, as expected, when I put my foot down, yeah, that feels really nice. Of course, as expected, very instant, very responsive yung ng throttle input. And what I found out with the electric motors is that when you plant your foot down ng outside ng sport mode, it sort of induces a bit of smoothness without the powers delivered. In sport mode, it pretty much feels like your Tesla EV na talagang it's gonna deliver all of that power in one full instant. But outside sport mode, it's inducing a bit of tapering sa kanyang power delivery, and so therefore it's keeping the vehicle composed and smooth even if you're making abrupt throttle inputs, thereby making the Kia EV9 very smooth and easy to control and easy to modulate. Finally, as for the other parts of the Kia EV9, well, it's all about the brakes because as usual naman with an EV, you have to blend both regenerative braking and the friction brakes. And as usual with Hyundai Motor Group's EVs, like of course the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 6, the Kia EV6, basically the whole arsenal of EVs ni Hyundai and Kia that is based on the eGMP platform, they tend to have really nice controls. The brakes feel good. I also like na I can adjust the regen through the paddle shifters. Of course, that's what you would expect naman in a Hyundai Motor Group EV. So yeah, this car is easy to drive, easy to manage, very comfortable, very refined, and with a degree of athleticism you wouldn't expect in such a large car like the Kia EV9. Would I say it's sporty? I think my term would be, or my description would be, that the Kia EV9 is athletic, yet very comfortable and remains silently in the background, making this 3-row electric SUV a perfect vehicle for those who either want to sit at the back and be treated like a VIP, or to those who want to drive their family, and while they're doing so, they're still having quite a lot of fun behind the wheel of the Kia EV9.
Yeah, the Kia EV9, however, is far from being an affordable vehicle. Costing nearly 6 million pesos, it pretty much matches a Toyota Land Cruiser 300. Initially, noong solo pa ng EV9 yung segment, we thought that its price was expensive, pero pwede na. But now in 2025, Hyundai has just launched the Ioniq 9 which costs 1.5 million pesos less. Don't forget, of course, that you also have the Chinese electric 3-row SUVs, which cost even less. That basically leaves us with the Kia EV9, which, though it is a great 3-row electric SUV, it is one that I think is now too expensive relative to its segment.